Publisher's note: Ayatollah Khamenei, the third president and the leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, delivered several speeches in. Later on, these speeches were summarized and published. The original title given by Ayatollah Khamenei to the book is Tarkuli Andisha Islami Dar Quran. What the author intends by the title is to introduce the principles of the Islamic thought according to the Quran. The author tries to give a general picture of what is meant by Islamic thought by supporting his ideas with different verses of the Quran. All the citations of the Quran are from the Quran translated by A.J. Arbery, London. The Macmillan Company, point 1955. The biography of the author is taken from the Islamic journal Echo of Islam. In all Islamic languages, whenever the name of the Prophet of Islam is cited, the honorific phrase Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa salam or follows. Most of the technical terms are explained in the notes at the end of the book. International Relations Department, Islamic Propagation Organization. About the author: Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei was born on July 15, 1939 in a religious family in the holy city of Mashhad. His father, Hojat Islam Haj Sayyid Jawad Khamenei, was one of the virtuous ulama of Mashhad, and his mother was the daughter of Hajjatul Islam Sayyid Hashim Najafabadi. Upon completion of his elementary studies, he entered Nawab School and started his theological studies. He completed courses under the auspices of such mentors as Ayatollah Milani and Ayatollah Haj Sheikh Hashim Kazvini. In 1958, he went on a pilgrimage to the holy city of Najaf. In 1959, he went to Qum and became the student of Ayatollah Lazma Burajurdi, Imam Khomeini, and Ayatollah Hari. He actively participated in the uprising of June 5, 1963, and fought the Pahlavi regime with Imam Khomeini. Later, he was arrested while carrying Imam Khomeini's message to Ayatollah Milani concerning the Ashura massacre of 1963. He then established a secret organization founded on Islamic ideology and Shurism. When this organization was uncovered, some of the great ulama were arrested and put in prison, but Ayatollah Khamenei and some others managed to flee. In 1965, he returned to Mashhad. He had always been threatened there by Savak and other agents of the Shah. Nevertheless, he continued teaching fiqh and usul to theological students. His teachings of Najul Balagha and the explanation of the Quran attracted people, especially the youth. Khamenei, throughout his revolutionary life, has been a vanguard of the Islamic movement of Iran. Between 1965 and 1979, he was imprisoned 6 times, and each time he passed his sentence in a solitary cell. In 1976, upon release, he expanded his comparative ideological classes and courses, and with his speeches all over the country, he preached Islamic thought among the youth. In 1978, he and some other committed clergymen established the Clergy Association of the country. The next year, he was exiled to Iranshar and then to Jaraft. But even after his release, he was not exempted from Savak's close watch. Ayatollah Khamenei has written and translated several books like The Future of Islamic Territory, which was banned by the Savak in 1967, Muslims in the Indian Liberation Movement, a critique on Western civilization, a translation, Imam Hassan's Reconciliation, a translation, The General Pattern of Islamic Thought in the Holy Quran, The Depths of Daily Prayer, a Correct Understanding of Islam, Imam Sadiq Life, Teachings from Naj al-Balagha, collection of lectures on Imamate and Our Position, which he wrote in collaboration with the wronged Ayatollah Beheshti, martyr Dr. Bahonar, and Hajjatul Islam Hashemi Rafsanjani. Ayatollah Khamenei, during the culmination of the revolution, upon the recommendation of Ayatollah Mutahhari, was appointed a member of the Revolutionary Council. After the victory of the revolution and the establishment of the Islamic Republic, he held some key posts as representative of the Revolutionary Council in the Defense Ministry, superintendent of the Guardians Corps of the Islamic Revolution, Imam's representative in the Supreme Defense Council, deputy of the people of Tehran to the Islamic Consultative Assembly, the leader of the Friday Congregational Prayers, and the president of the Islamic Republic of Iran with a vote of 16.007,972. Ayatollah Khamenei was elected unanimously as the Secretary General of the Islamic Republican Party following the martyrdom of Dr. Bayhoner. He is married and has 4 children. During the Iraqi-imposed war, as the new president of the Islamic Republic of Iran, with other members of the Supreme Defense Council, he played a great role in organizing the armed forces. With his presence on the fronts, he uplifted the spirits and morale of our Islamic combatants. On June 27, 1981, as a result of the explosion of a bomb planted inside a tape recorder by Munifiqin, he was injured while delivering a speech in the Abu Dhar Masjid in Tehran, but he recovered soon. After his recovery, he stressed that his second life was a gift from God, which has been bestowed on him to serve Islam and the people. He was elected as the president of the Islamic Republic of Iran for the second term, with 3.80 votes. On August 20th, 1985, just after the very sad demise of the leader of the Islamic Revolution and the founder of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Imam Khamenei, Ridwanullah alayhi, he was elected as the leader of the Islamic Revolution by a large majority of the votes of the Assembly of Experts on June 4th, 1989. Preface. As regards religious thought, it is an urgent necessity to propound Islam as an ideology which benefits both integrative and consistent principles and sees to men's social life as well. Before this, Islamic studies were mostly devoid of these 2 important characteristics. Hence, in comparing Islam with other schools of thought and ideologies of our time, these studies couldn't lead the researchers to a fruitful conclusion and a crucial judgment. It means they have neither been able to show the integrity and uniformity of Islam as a whole, nor been able to define its relation to other schools of thought. Furthermore, these studies have not considered the practical aspect of life and especially social influences. They have mainly been abstract rather than concrete. Hence, the result has been nothing more than an abstract knowledge regarding men's social life, the structure of society, responsibility, and duty. These studies have not offered any clear and special proposition. Another point is that in many cases, the Qur'an, the decisive and undoubted document of Islam, has not been able to play an elucidative role in man's life. Instead, suspicious narrations and traditions have been more reliable and dominating. Thus, the religious beliefs have developed regardless of the Qur'an. Because of this jack of relation and attention, which are themselves the effects of some particular factors. Scrutinizing the verses of the Qur'an has given way to superficial and perfunctory reading. Such fruitless reading, heedless of mundane reward, was only for the sake of other worldly reward. In this way, the honorable Qur'an has become a means of demagogy in the hands of common people. Having this reality in mind, it is necessary to consider 3 important characteristics in Islamic studies, which every learned and committed thinker is expected to pay special attention to. First of all, Islamic learning, teachings, and system of thought should get rid of abstraction and mere thought. Islam, like other schools of thought, should apply to practical responsibilities and social life of man. Moreover, each speculative aspect of religion should be probed to see what pattern for man's life and what aim for this existence it offers. Secondly, all the aspects of Islamic thought should be studied as a consistent whole and an integrative unit. Considering these aspects, a few points should always be kept in mind. Each aspect is a part of the whole religion. Each is a constituent of a compound. Each one is like a brick in a solid building. And finally, all of them are in complete harmony with each other and not separated. Approaching Islam in this way will result in a thorough understanding of the principles of Islam. Such an understanding will enable us to present a general and overall pattern of Islam as a perfect and clear ideology, which is in proportion with the multidimensional life of man. Thirdly, for the understanding of the Islamic principles, fundamental religious documents and texts should be regarded as the original sources, and not the personal comments and judgments, nor the stored and subjective knowledge of different people. Thus, The outcome of such an investigation will eventually be Islamic, and nothing except that. To achieve this end, the Quran is the most authentic and perfect document which can be relied on. Of course, deep meditation on the Quran is necessary while reading it as it itself orders us. What has been compiled in this treatise is a gist to show the effort for achieving the above-mentioned purpose. The initial treatise was in the form of a report on Islam in a series of successive lectures. In these lectures, effort was made to search for the most important bases of Islamic thought through the most valid and vital dimension, that is, through the eloquent verses of the Quran. Then through explanatory description, which is the method of scrutinizing the Quran. The above-mentioned base in these verses were specified. If necessary, in order to explain or emphasize, use was made of the accurate traditions of the Prophet of Islam and the infallible Imams. By applying this method, besides scrutinizing some verses of the Quran, each time one of the principles of Islam was explained as a part of Islamic thought and ideology from a practical and committed point of view. Finally, to enable the listeners to have in mind a summary of the presented subjects, the outcome of each lecture was written down on a sheet of paper and was given to the audience every day. These summaries, in turn, can be a source for an independent and continuous thought. What is presented in this book is the collection of these summaries whose publication is an answer to the acceptable and logical requests of many listeners. October 25th, 1974. Faith. Definition. Man's effort and movement, which are the very reasons of his existence, have a starting point and a platform. That is called faith. Faith means to accept and to believe in what man is trying for, in the way which leads him to that aim, and finally, in his very effort and movement. Without faith, every movement or effort is evanescent and fruitless. Without faith, searchers become discouraged and mirthless, and, as a result, they become dumb, stagnant, and motionless. Taking this reality into consideration, the Quran emphasizes on faith and the faithful, and introduces this characteristic as the supreme value which stands at the peak of all human characteristics. Now let us consider the list of the most important Islamic values and on the dignity of faith, which enjoys the highest rank among them, in the following verse. ليس البر أن تول وجوههم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولنا البر من آمن باله واليوم آخر والمئة والتاب. وألنا بين وآتنا المال على حبه ذوي القرب واليتام والمساكين وابن السبيل وسائلين وفي الرقاب وأقام الصلاة. وآتنا الزكاة والموفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين الباس أولئك الذين صدقوا. وأولئك هم المتقون. It is not piety that you turn your faces to the east and to the west. True piety is this, to believe in God, and the last day, the angels, the book, and the prophets, to give of one's substance, however cherished, to kinsmen and orphans, the needy, the traveler, beggars, and to free the slave, to perform the prayer, to pay the poor due. And they who fulfill their covenant, when they have engaged in a covenant, and endure with fortitude, misfortune, hardship, and peril. These are they who are true in their faith. These are the truly God-fearing. In this way, in response to the believers of the Bible, who regard Judaism or Christianity as the only way of salvation, the Quran lays emphasis on the vast Islamic faith as the cause of man's salvation. وقالوا كونوا هودا أو نصارى تهتدوا قل بل ملة مربوطا إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين كولوا آمنا ألف باله وما إنزل ربهم نفرق بين أحد منهم ونحن له مسلمون. Say you, we believe in God, and in that which has been sent down on us, and sent down on Abraham, Ismael, Isaac, and Jacob, and the tribes, and that which was given to Moses and Jesus and the prophets of their Lord. We make no distinction between any of them, and to him we surrender. And if they believe in the like of that you believe in, then they're truly guided. Conscious faith. In this regard, the following subjects are to be seen in the Quran. 1. Having faith in the principles and foundations of the religion is one of the outstanding characteristics of the Prophet of God and his true followers. It is so outstanding that the Quran has specifically emphasized on it, saying, آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله ومئته وكتبه ورسله نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. The messenger believes in what was sent down to him from his Lord, and the believers, each one believes in God and his angels, and in his books and his messengers. We make no distinction between any one of his messengers. They say, we hear and obey. Our Lord, thy forgiveness, our Lord, unto thee is the homecoming. 2. Faith arises from understanding, intellect, and knowledge. It is not a blindfold and imitative belief. This very characteristic distincts faith from other wrong devotions, which are often absurd, fading, and devoid of any action. In the following verses, an evident indication of this kind of understanding can be observed. أن فخلق السماوات ورد واختفى الليل وآل نهاريات ولألباب الذين يذكرون إلها قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفرون فخلق السماوات ورد ربنا ما خلقت هذا بات سبحانك فقنا عذاب آل نار ربنا إنك من تدخل آل نار فقد أخزيته وما للذ المين من أنصار ربنا أننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي لإيمان أن آمنوا برب فآمن ألف ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا ألف سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع إبرار. Surely in the creation of the heavens and earth, and in the alteration of night and day, there are signs for men possessed of minds who remember God, standing and sitting and on their sides, and reflect upon the creation of the heavens and the earth. Our Lord, thou hast not created this for vanity. Glory be to thee. Guard us against the chastisement of the fire. Our Lord, whomsoever thou admittest into the fire, thou wilt have abased, and the evildoers shall have no helpers. Our Lord, we have heard a caller calling us to belief, saying, believe you in your Lord, and so we believe. 3. Only an enlightened mind can perceive this knowledge and understanding. Otherwise, faith would turn into a petrified and foolish bigotry, and the way to truth and salvation would be blocked for man. This is why the Quran seriously condemns the bigoted and imitative faith of pagans. Let us consider the rebuking and meaningful tone of the following verse. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالَوْا مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْهِ وَلِلرَّسُولِ قَالُوا حَسِبْنَا مَا وَجَدْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا أَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ شِيَّ وَيَهْتَدُونَ. And when it is said to them, come now to what God has sent down, and the messenger, they say, enough for us is what we found our fathers doing. What even if their fathers had knowledge of naught and were nor guided? Dynamic faith together with action. Does faith mean just an abstract belief or thought? Is faith worthy of consideration as far as it is dynamic and decisive in shaping our life? The Quran always associates faith with action and regards it a motivation for crossing the way to the desired destination. In many verses of the Quran, rewards of this and the next world are dependent upon the faith together with action. Listen to the Quran and think about what it says here. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أركعوا واسجدوا واعبدوا ربكم وافعلوا الخير لعلكم تفلحون وجاهدوا فأله حق جهاده هو اجتباكم وما جعل عليم فالدين من حرج ملة مربوطة أبيم إبراهيم هو سماكم المسلمين من قبل وفي هذا ليون الرسول شهيدا عليم وتونوا شهداء على أسفقيموا أسا وآتوا الزكاة واعتصموا باله هو موكم فنعم المول ونعم ألن سير. O believers, bow down and prostrate yourselves, and worship your Lord, and do good. Haply so. You shall prosper, and struggle for God as is his due, for he has chosen you, and has laid on you no impediment in your religion, being the creed of your father Abraham. He named you Muslims aforetime, and in this, that the messenger might be a witness against you, and that you may be witnesses against mankind. So perform the prayer, and pay the poor due, and hold you fast to God. He is your protector, an excellent protector, an excellent helper. In the above verses, the most important peculiarities of religious belief which are victory, success, superiority, leadership of human beings, and, finally, the support of God, are dependent upon the dynamic faith together with action. The following verse reminds us of actions resulting from faith and specifies the role of dynamic faith in an Islamic society. إن الذين آمنوا وهاجروا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم فسبيل الله والذين آووا ونصروا أولئك بعضهم أولياء بعض والذين آمنوا ولم يهاجروا ما لم من ويتهم منشأ حد يهاجروا وأن استنصروكم فالدين فعليم أن سرا ألف على قوم بينهم وبينهم ميثاق والله بما تعملون بصير. Those who believe and have emigrated and struggled with their possessions and their souls in the way of God, and those who have given refuge and helped those who are friends of each other. And those who believe but have not emigrated you have no duty of friendship towards them till they emigrate. Faith and its responsibilities. According to the verses mentioned, previously true faith is inseparable from action. Profiteers do not consider the responsibilities of faith as an obligatory promise. They accept these responsibilities as far as they are in harmony with their personal interests. Otherwise, they would not take care of these responsibilities at all. In the culture of the Qur'an, these people, who may have some sincere faith in their hearts, stored for the days of distress, are called faithless and disbelievers. The Qur'an promises salvation, prosperity, victory, superiority to the faithful who, under all conditions, are attentive to the responsibilities of faith. The following verses are the clear voice of the Quran in this regard. لقد انزلنا آيات مبينات والله يهدي من يشاء صراط مستقيم ويقولون آمن ألف باله وبالرسول واتعنا ثم يتولى فريق منهم من بعد ذلك وما أولئك بالمؤمنين وإذا دعوا الأله ورسوله ليحمى بينهم إذا فريق منهم معرضون وينين لهم الحق يت إليه مذعنين أف قلوبهم مرض أم ارتبوا أم يخافون أن يحيف أله عليهم ورسوله بل أولئك هم الظلمون أنما كان قول المؤمنين إذا دعوا الأله ورسوله ليحمى بينهم أن يقولوا سمعنا واتعنا وأولئك هم المفلحون ومن يطع الله ورسوله ويخشى الله ويتقيه فأولئك هم الفائزون. Now we have sent down signs making all clear. God guides whomsoever he willed to a straight path. They say, we believe in God and the messenger, and we obey. Then after that a party of them turn away. Those they are not believers. When they are called to God and his messenger that he may judge between them, lo, a party of them are swerving aside. But if they are in the right, they will come to him submissively. What? Is there sickness in their hearts? Or are they in doubt? Or do they fear that God and his messenger may be unjust towards them? Nay, but those they are the evil doers. All that the believers say, when they are called to God and his messenger to judge between them, is that they say, we hear and we obey. Those they are the prosperous. He who obeys Allah and his messenger, and fears God, and keeps duty, such indeed are the victorious. And finally, in the following two verses, the Quran gives the pleasing promise of establishing the divine government and ideal Islamic society over the world to those true believers when deeds are decent and tied with faith. وعد الله الذين آمنوا منم وعملوا الصالحات ليستخلفنهم في الأرض كما استخلف الذين من قبلهم وليمنن لهم دينهم الذي ارتضى لهم وليبدلنهم من بعد خوفهم أمنا يعبدونني يشركون بي ومن كفر بعد ذلك فأولئك هم الفاسقون. God has promised those of you who believe and do righteous deeds that he will surely make them successors in the land, even as he made those who were before them successors, and that he will surely establish their religion for them that he has approved for them, and will give them in exchange, after their fear, security. They shall serve me, not associating with me anything. Promises. What does man need in order to obtain perfect prosperity? 1. He needs to know the aim and the right road to achieve it. 2. The veils of ignorance, ambition, fancy, and every other thing which cast a cloud over man's vision and his power of thinking should be removed. Instead, the light of truth should penetrate into his heart. 3. In his long way towards prosperity, he should get rid of confusion and anxiety, which are internal hindrances and are much more difficult than external ones to overcome. 4. He should consider his struggle fruitful and hope for an agreeable conclusion. 5. His faults and guilt should be compensable and forgivable. 6. At any time he should enjoy a reliable and firm hold. 7. When confronting the enemies, he should enjoy the fruits of a power superior to human beings' power. 8. He should be superior to the opposite rank. 9. He should overcome the enemies of his aim and weigh who are the obstacles to progress. 10. Finally, he should get rid of all the difficulties, hindrances, bondages in order to accomplish his aim. 11. In every situation, he should enjoy what been ready for man in this world. At last, after the exhaustion of the span of life and finishing all the struggle, he should face a decent reward and response in the convenient heaven. Now, let us consider the verses of the Qur'an which promise all these to those believers whose faith is accompanied with responsibility and action. Guidance. إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات يهديهم ربهم بإيمانهم تجري من تحتهم الأنهار في جنات النعيم. Surely those who believe and do deed of righteousness, their Lord will guide them by their belief. يا أيها الناس قد جاءكم برهان من ربكم وأنزلنا اليوم نورا مبينا فما الذين آمنوا به واعتصموا به فسيدخلهم فرحمة منه وفضل ويهديهم إليه صراطا مستقيما. O men, a proof has now come to you from your Lord. We have sent down to you a manifest light. As for those who believe in God and hold fast to Him, He will surely admit them to mercy from Him and bounty, and will guide them to Him on a straight path. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لِنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. But those who struggle in our cause, surely we shall guide them in our ways, and God is with the good doers. ألهم والذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات الألين والذين كفروا أولياؤهم أغوت يخرجونهم من ألين ورأل. الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. God is the guardian of the believers. He brings them forth from the darkness into the light. And the unbelievers, their patrons, are idols that bring them forth from the light into the darkness. Those are the inhabitants of the fire. Their indwelling forever. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا وسبحوه برة واسي هو الذي يصل عليم ومئته ليخرج من الظلمات الألين وكان بالمؤمنين رحيما. O believer, remember God oft, and glorify Him at the dawn and in the evening. It is He who blesses you and His angels to bring you forth from the darkness into the light. يا أيها الذين آمنوا آتنكوا إلها وآمنوا برسوله يؤتم كفلين من رحمته ويجعل لهم نورا تمشون به ويغفر لهم ولهم. غفور رحيم. O believers, fear God and believe in His messenger, and He will give you twofold portion of His mercy, and He will appoint for you a light whereby you shall walk. Promises. Tranquility and security. To get rid of confusion and anxiety is one of the most important characteristics of the faithful. The Quran promises to provide the faithful with this valuable spiritual state. الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله ألف بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات طوبى لهم وحسن مآب. Those who believe, their hearts being at rest in God's remembrance and God's remembrance are at rest the hearts of those who believe and do righteous deeds. Theirs is blessedness and a fair resort. Abraham explained this reality to the wandering pagans of his time who did not enjoy internal tranquility and peace due to the lack of any definite and logical ideology. He spoke about his inner ease and security, the origin of which was his solid faith. وحاجه قومه قالت حاجون فأله وقد هدانا وأخاف ما تشركون به ألف أن يشاء رب شيئا وسع رب كله شون علما تتذكرون وكيف أخاف ما أشركتم وتخافون أم أشركتم باله ما لم ينزل به عليم سلطان فأي الفريقين أحق بأمن إن كنتم تعلمون الذين آمنوا ولما يلبسوا إيمانهم بظلم أولئك لهم أمن وهم مهتدون. His people disputed with him. He said, "Do you dispute with me concerning God? And he has guided me. I fear not what you associate with him. Except my Lord, while my Lord embraces all things in his knowledge. Will you not remember? How should I fear what you have associated with God, that whereon he has not sent down on you any authority? Which of the two parties has better title to security, if you have any knowledge? Those who believe, and have not confounded their belief with evil doing to them belongs the true security. They are rightly guided." Fruitfulness. The faithful person knows that each step he takes makes him nearer to his aim. He knows that his efforts and activities are generally fruitful, and none of them will be in vain. وما جعلنا القبلة التي كانت عليها ألف لنعلم من يتبع الرسول ممن ينقلب على عقبيه وإن كانت لبيرة ألف على الذين قد أله وما كان أله ليوديع إيمانهم أن له بآلن أسل رؤوف رحيم. And we appointed the Qibla, which ye formerly observed, only that we might know him who followeth the messenger, from him who turneth on his heels. In truth, it was a hard save for those whom Allah guided. But it was not Allah's purpose that your faith should be in vain, for Allah is full of pity, merciful toward mankind. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلُ مِنَ الصَّالِحَاتِ وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَكُفْرَانِ لِسَعْيِهِ وَأَنَّ أَلِفٌ لَهُ كَاتِبُونَ. And whosoever does deeds of righteousness, being a believer, no unthankfulness shall befall his endeavors. Lo, we record for him. Monotheism. Monotheism in the Islamic ideology. The Quranic monotheism is not an indifferent and irresponsible concept. It is rather a committed and a constructive notion. It is a way of thinking which has an effective role in the construction and administration of the society. It defines the aim and the strategy of the society. Monotheism is indeed one of the cornerstones, the principal one, of Islamic ideology. The dependence of the world and man on the superior power demands the world to have been created for a purpose. It also demands responsibility. That is, man, by using his power of thinking and decision, should choose the straight path in order to achieve an aim. Considering God as the only creator of the world necessitates that the power of legislation be exclusive to his will, and all the animate who possess common sense be subject to follow his rules. Also, the infinite knowledge of God demands that the competency of making rules of men, which are unavoidably based on man's needs and interests, be solely confined to him. The uniform servitude of all the living things towards God necessitates that none of his creatures be granted the right to govern over others. It also necessitates that the leader of mankind be the one whom God himself has chosen to govern, either by appointing the infallible imams or by defining the criteria for Islamic governors at the time of the infallible imam's absence. The following verses of the Quran will elucidate parts of the Islamic thought about monotheism. وَمَنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أُشْدُوا حُبًّا لَهُ وَلَوْ يَرَى الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا إِذْ يَرَوْنَ الْعَذَابَ أَنَّ الْقُوَّةَ لَهُ جَمِيعًا وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعَذَابِ إِذْ تَبْرَأَ الَّذِينَ آتَنْبَعُوا مِنَ الَّذِينَ آتَنْبَعُوا وَرَوُا الْعَذَابَ وَتَقَطَّعَتْ بهم أسباب وقال الذين آتنبعوا لو أن لنا كرة فنتبرأ منهم كما تبرأوا منا ألف كذلك يريهم الله أعمالهم حسرات عليهم وما هم بخارجين من النار. Yet of mankind are some who take unto themselves rivals to Allah, loving them with a love like of Allah. Those who believe are stauncher in their love for Allah, when those who were followed disown those who followed, and they behold the doom, and all their aims collapse with them. And those who were but followers will say, if a return were possible for us, we would disown them even as they have disowned us. Thus will Allah show them their own deeds as anguish for them, and they will not emerge from the fire. God exclusive obedience and worship. So far we understood that monotheism is not only a philosophical concept, but a belief on which man's social and individual life should be based. Some of the general articles of the monotheistic resolution, the Quran, are as follows. According to the principle of monotheism, human beings do not have the right to worship or obey any person or anything except God. On this basis, all the sufferings and oppressions which have been imposed on mankind by false gods throughout the history have been devoid of any true justification. This general statement includes idols, gods, tyrants, and finally the inclinations of the carnal soul. The following verses, which are about false gods, whether mankind or other things, clarify the general pattern of this aspect of monotheism. وَيَوْمَ نَحْشُرُهُمْ جَمِيعًا ثُمَّ نَقُولُ لِلَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا مَا أَنْتُمْ وَشُرَكَاؤُكُمْ فَزَيَّلْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ وَقَالَ شُرَكَاؤُهُم مَا كُنتُمْ إِيَّانَا تعبدون فباله شهيدا بيننا وبينهم أن كنا ألف عن عبادة من الغافلين هنالك تبلو كل نفس ما أسلفت وردوا الأله مهم الحق وضل عنهم ما كانوا يفترون قل من يرزقهم من السماء ورد أمن يملك السماء وابصارا ومن يخرج لحا من الميت ويخرج الميت من ألحا ومن يدبر أمر فسيقولون أله فقل تتقون. And the day we shall muster them all, then we shall say to those who associate partners, get you to your place, you and your associates. Then we shall separate between them, and their associates will say, not us you are serving. God is a sufficient witness between us and you. Assuredly, we were heedless of your service. Their every soul shall prove its past deeds, and they shall be restored to God, their Lord, and the true, and there shall go astray from them that they were forging say, who provides you out of the heaven and earth, or who possesses hearing and sight, and who brings forth the living from the dead, and brings forth the dead from the living, and who directs the affair? They will surely say, God then say, will you not be God-fearing? And yuhda femelem kayfa tahmun. Say, unless there any of your associates who guides to the truth. Say, God guides to the truth. And who is worthier to be followed, he who guides to the truth, or he who guides not unless he is guided? What then ails you, how you judge? It is clear that to guide and being guided is a quality which man deserves. Thus, the above verse is about those men who proclaim themselves as gods, or consider themselves to be the partners of God, and oblige other people to obey them as slaves. Islam negates the servitude to the pretended gods, being religious powers or political and economic powers. In a verse of the Qur'an, Islam offers the following suggestion to the people of the book. قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ التَّابِ تَعَالَوْا الْكَلِمَةً سَوَاءٌ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَمَا أَلِفٌ نَعْبُدَ أَلِفٌ اللَّهُ وَنَشْرِكُ بِهِ شَيْئًا وَإِيتْ خُذْ بَعْضُنَا بَعْضًا أَرْبَابًا من دون أله فان تولوا فقولوا اشهدوا بنا ألف مسلمون. Say, people of the scripture, come now to a word common between us and you, that we worship none but God, and that we associate not aught with him, and do not some of us take others as Lord-s, apart from God. And if they turn their backs, say, bear witness that we are Muslims. However, the Quran considers people's obedience to the true believers as an obedience to God, and in a few verses it introduces the executive powers of the Islamic community, the Prophet and those who are in authority, i.e. Yulul Amr 1. The spirit of monotheism, negation of servitude to false deities. Scrutinizing about some other verses of Quran will much more clarify the effect of monotheism and its monotheistic procedure on individual life and social organizations. According to the Quran, the refusal to worship false gods does not necessarily imply that one is a monotheist. In order to be considered a monotheist, one has to negate the obedience to the opponents of God as well. This point is so much evident in the Quran that those who obey false gods are called idolaters. In this way, worshiping God, which is the meaning and the spirit of monotheism, can be called the exclusive obedience and servitude to God. Thus, the obedience to and the worshiping of false gods being in the form of an individual's commands, public rules, social organization, or so forth, is considered idolatry. This is why with the protesting tone monotheism is manifested in the verses of the Quran, such as the following. إِفِي غَيْرِ إِلْهَا أَبَتِغِي حَمًّا وَهُوَ ذِي إِنزِلْ أَلْيَمَ التَّابِ فَالذَّيْنِ آتَيْنَاهُمْ التَّابِ يَعْلَمُونَ أَنَّهُ مُنزِلٌ مِّن رَبِّكَ بِالْحَقِّ فَتُونِ مِنَ الْمُمْتَرِينَ وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلٍ مُبْدِلٍ لِلْمَاتِهِ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَأَن تُوثِعَ. أكثر من فإرد يضلك عن سبيل أله أن إيت بعون ألف أذن وأن هما ألف يخرسون أن ربك هو يعلم من يضل عن سبيله وهو يعلم بالمهتدين فلوا مما ذكر اسم الله عليه إن كنتم بآياته مؤمنين وما لما ألف تأكل مما ذكر اسم الله عليه وقد فصل لما ما حرم عليما ألف ما اضطررتم إليه وأن كثيرا ليضلون بهوائهم بغير علم أن ربك هو يعلم بالمعتدين وذر الظاهر أثم وباطنه أن الذين يسبون أثم سيجزون بما كانوا يقترفون وتأكلوا مما لم يذكر اسم الله عليه وانهل الفسق وأن الشياطين ليوحون لأوليائهم ليجادلوكم ونعتموهم أنهم لمشركون. What shall I seek other than God for judge? For it is he who sent down to you the book well explained. And those whom we have given the book know it is sent down from thy Lord with the truth. So be not thou of the waverers. Perfect is the word of thy Lord in truthfulness and justice. None can change his words. He is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. If thou obeyest the most of those on earth, they will lead thee astray from the path of God. They follow only surmise, merely conjecturing. Thy Lord knows very well who goes astray from his path. He knows best who erred from his way, and he knows best he, rightly guided. Eat of that over which God's name has been mentioned, if you believe in his signs. How it is with you that you do not eat of that over which God's name has been mentioned, seeing that he has explained for you, that he has forbidden unto you, unless you are constrained to it. But surely many lead astray by their caprices, without any knowledge. Thy Lord knows best the transgressors. Forsake the outward sin and the inward. Surely the earners of sin shall be recompensed for what they have earned. And eat not of that over which God's name has not been mentioned. It is ungodliness. The Satan inspire their friends to dispute with you. If you obey them, you are idolaters. وازلفت الجنتاء مربوطة للمت كين وبرزت الجحيم للغوين وقيل لهم أينما كنتم تعبدون من دون إله هل ينصرون معه ينتصرون فببوا فيها هم والغاؤون وجنود إبليس أجمعون قالوا وهم فيها يختصمون تاله أن كنا ألف لفضل مبين إذ نسويم برب العالمين وما أضلنا ألف المجرمون فما لنا من شافعين وصديق حميم فلو أن لنا كرة فنون من. And paradise shall be brought forward for the God-fearing, and hell advanced for the erring. And it will be said unto them, where were you serving apart from God? Do they help you, or help themselves? Then they shall be pitched into it, they, and the perverse, and the hosts of bliss altogether. They shall say as they dispute there one with another, by God, we were certainly in manifest error when we made you equal with the Lord of all being. It was not but the sinners that led us astray. So now we have no intercessors nor a loyal friend. Oh, that we might return again and be among the believers. Surely in that is a sign. Yet most of them are not believers. Monotheism and the negation of social classes. Social discrimination has always been the great cruelty of the human history. In order to justify this cruelty, sometimes it is said, different gods have created different classes of the society, and therefore, each class has its own peculiar advantages and right. Sometimes it is said, the one God has granted particular rights to a special group of people when creating them. On the whole, at different stages of the history of man's life, this justification has had different forms, and on this basis, the luxury of the highly distinguished class and deprivation of the oppressed class have been considered a natural necessity. The principle of monotheism not only considers all the animate as creatures of one God, but also obliterates the roots of social discrimination from the minds of human beings. A part of the monotheistic instructions which can be seen in the verses of the Qur'an is as follows. قل لمن إرد ومن فيها إن كنتم تعلمون سيقولون له قل أفتذكرون قل من رب السماوات السبع ورب العرش العظيم سيقولون له قل أفتتقون قل من بيده ملوت كل شيء وهو يجير ويجار عليه إن كنتم تعلمون سيقولون له قل فان تسحرون بلئيناهم بالحق وأنهم لاذبون ما آت خذ إلها من ولد وما كان معه من إله إذا لذهب كل إله بما خلق ولا بعدهم على بعد سبحان إله عما يصفون. Say, whose is the earth, and whose is in it, if you have knowledge? They will say, God say. Will you not then remember? Say, who is the Lord of the seven heavens, and the Lord of the mighty throne? They will say, God. Say, will you not then be God-fearing? Say, in whose hand is the dominion over all things, and he protects, while against him there is no protection. If you have knowledge, they will say, God say, how then are you bewitched? Nay, but we brought them the truth, and they are truly liars. God has not taken to high oneself any son, nor is there any God with him. For then each God would have taken off that he created, and some of them would have risen up over other. Glory be to God. Beyond that they described, who has knowledge of the unseen and the visible. High exalted be he, above that they associated. يا أيها أعبدوا ربم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلم لعلم تتكون ذي جعل لم إرد فراشا والسماء بناء وانزل من السماء ماء فاخرج به من أث مرات رزقا لم فتجعلوا له أندادا وأنتم تعلمون. O mankind, worship your Lord who created you, and those that were before you. Haply so you will be God-fearing, who assigned to you the earth for a couch, and heaven for an edifice, and sent down out of heaven water, wherewith he brought forth fruits for your provision. So set not up compeers to God wittingly. Alimun Khabir. O mankind, lo, we have created you male and female, and appointed you nations and tribes, that you may know one another. Surely the noblest among you in the sight of God is the most God-fearing of you. God is all-knowing, all-aware. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا ابْنَ آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِّمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. We have honored the children of Adam, and carried them on land and sea, and provided them with good things, and preferred them greatly over many of those we created. The psychological effects of monotheism. Although the principal responsibility of monotheism is to establish a monotheistic society, that is a society where there is no class discrimination and the divine rules and the command of Allah are dominant. The psychological effects of this belief in the spirit of the believers is tremendous and worth considering. On the whole, it can be said that the monotheistic belief has two constructive dimensions: the construction of the society and the construction of the individual. The follower of monotheism, under the influence of this belief, enjoys important characteristics including infinite hope, untiring effort, and protection against fright and lust's broad-mindedness, rightly chosen direction, and so forth. The Qur'an in some of its verses, when speaking about faith and the life and efforts of the true believers, clearly point out some of these characteristics. Example verses are as follow. الذين استجبوا له ورسولي من بعد ما أصابهم القرح للذين أحسنوا منهم واتقوا أجر عظيم الذين قال لهم الناس إن الأنس قد جمعوا لما فخشوهم فزادهم إيمانا وقالوا حسبنا إله ونعم الوكيل فانقلبوا بنعمة من إله وفضل لم يمسسهم سوء واتبعوا رضوان إله والهم ذو فضل عظيم أما ظلم الشيطان يخوف أولياءه فتخافوهم وخافون. And those who answered God and the messenger after the harm had smitten them, to all those of them who did good and feared God shall be a mighty wage, those to whom the people said, the people have gathered against you, therefore fear them, but increase them in faith. And they said, God is sufficient for us, an excellent guardian is he. So they returned with blessing and bounty from God, untouched by any harm. They followed the good pleasure of God, and God is of abounding bounty. That is Satan frightening his friends. Therefore do not fear them, but fear me, if you are believers. 1. Ulul. Generally, it means those of you who are in authority. But the question is that who is authority? Some say that it refers to the prophet and his household. It is also said that it refers to the jurisconsults. However, Ulul are those people who are as immaculate as the prophet. In the Surah of Women, verse 59, the Quran says, O ye who believe, obey Allah, and obey the Prophet and Ulul Amr. Here Ulul Amr enjoys the same position as the Prophet. One is to obey the Prophet as he is to obey Ulul Amr. Prophethood. The philosophy of prophethood. What is the purpose of the divine religions, and what is the philosophy of prophethood, which conveys the divine messages of such religions? What is the meaning of prophethood, and what is its relation to the prophetic mission? What are the goals of prophethood and the prophetic mission? What is the starting point of the prophets, and what is the fruit of their endeavors? These questions and the like are fundamental subjects of prophethood, which every true believer must be aware of. The Holy Aaron has given short, perfect, and clear answers to all these questions. Prophethood is essential for man's senses and instincts, and even his knowledge are not enough to lead him to salvation. So he needs something superior to his intellectual power, i.e. guidance, through heavenly revelation. This heavenly revelation originates from God, who is the creator of man and aware of all his imperfections, needs, sufferings, and the treatment for them. This is the logic of all religions of the world and the philosophy of prophethood. Due to this need, the prophets are called to prophethood in order to bring into action programs which can meet it. The above-mentioned points can be clearly found in some verses of the Qur'an as follows. كان لنا أمة واحدة فبعث إله آلنا بين مبشرين ومنذرين وانزل معهم التاب بالحق ليحم بين الناس فيما اختلفوا فيه وما اختلف فيها ألف الذين أوتوه من بعد ما جاءتهم البينات بغيا بينهم فهدى إله الذين آمنوا لما اختلفوا فيه من الحق بإذنه وله يهدي من يشاء الصراط المستقيم. The people were one nation. Then God sent forth the prophets to hear good tidings and warning, and he sent down with them the book with the truth, that he might decide between the people touching their differences, and only those who had been given it were at variance upon it, after the clear signs had come to them, being insolent one to another. Then God guided those who believed to the truth, touching which they were at variance, by his leave, and God guides whomsoever he wills to a straight path. يسبح له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآرين منهم لما يلحق بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء وله ذو الفضل العظيم. All that is in the heavens and the earth magnifies God, the King, the All-Holy, the Almighty, and the All-Wise. It is he who has raised up from among the common people a messenger of their own, to recite his verses to them, and to purify them, and to teach them the book and wisdom, though before that they were in manifest error, and others of them who have not yet joined them. And he is the Almighty, the All-Wise. That is the bounty of God. He gives it to whom he wills, and God is of abounding bounty. Calling to prophethood. Prophethood is a prophetic mission. It is a resurrection after a period of immovability and tranquility. Initially, this resurrection affects the prophet's spirit and then his environs. The prophet, enjoying extraordinary knowledge and background, is ready to accept the great responsibility. Of course, before being called to prophethood, this potential power is not carried into effect, and he, as an ordinary man of a society, is engaged in daily efforts. The divine inspiration revolutionizes the prophet and moves his spirit. Then he is appointed to prophethood. The following verses remind one of the beginning of this resurrection in the spirit of the Prophet of Islam. وَالضَّحُ وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَّ مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى وَلَآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنْ الْأُولَى وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَاتَّقِ الْعِلْمَ يَجِدُكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَى وَوَجَدَكَ ضَلًّا فَهَدَى وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى. By the early morning and the night when it falls. Thy Lord has neither forsaken thee nor hates thee, and the last shall be better for thee than the first. Thy Lord shall give thee, and thou shalt be satisfied. Did he not find thee an orphan, and shelter thee? Did he not find thee wandering, and guide thee? Did he not find thee needy, and suffice thee? This inner resurrection, which had considerable physical influences on the appearance of the prophet, begins with the following verse. أقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق إنسان من علق أقرأ وربك أكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم إنسان ما لم يعلم كائن إنسان ليطغى أن رآه استغني إن ربك الرجع. Recite, in the name of thy Lord who created man of a blood clot. Recite, and thy Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man that he knew not. No, indeed. Surely man waxes insolent, for he thinks himself self-sufficient. Surely unto thy Lord is the returning. The following verses also indicate the same change in the prophet's spirit. وَأَلَ نَجُمْ إِذَا هَوَى مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبٌ وَمَا غَوَى وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنْ الْهَوَى إِنْ هَوَى أَلِفٌ وَحْيُوحِ عَلْمَ شَدِيدَ الْقُوَى ذُو مَرَّةٍ فاستوى وهو بأفق أعلى ثمدنا فتدل فان قاب قوسين أو أدن فوح العبده ما أوحى ما كذب الفواد ما رأى أفتمارونه علم يرى. By the star when it plunges, your companion is not astray, neither errs, and nor speak as out of desire. It is not but a revelation revealed, taught him by one of mighty powers very strong. He stood poised, being on the higher horizon, then drew near, and suspended hung, 2 bows' length away, or nearer, then revealed to his servant that he revealed. His heart lied not what he saw. Will you dispute with him what he sees? It is, however, after the acquisition of this inner and spiritual motive that the prophet's way of life undergoes basic change. This is very the responsibility of prophethood. Social resurrection of prophethood. Prophets appear in chaotic and deviated social conditions to establish a perfect human order conforming to man's nature. In this way, truth replaces falsehood. Man, whose nature is in harmony with the world's nature, will find his way to evolution when he conforms to an order which is inspired by the world's and man's nature and to its rules which aid in proportion with his spiritual and physical structure. It is in this manner that he advances towards evolution. Throughout history, ignorance and prejudice have reversed the way of humanity and by imposing in human systems have taken man out of his natural course. Thus, the prophets are to lead him to the straight path. It is therefore understood that the prophet has to make his misled and ignorant society undergo a basic and complete change and to establish a righteous system. This is the social resurrection which happens after the prophet is appointed to prophethood. In fact, through this great resurrection, all the superficial and empty traditions and systems are overthrown, and a valid and correct system, which is the religion of God, replaces them. In the following verses, we clearly see some general points about the inhuman system of Pharaoh 1 foot and the divine and natural system of Moses, which had to replace it. تلك آيات والكتاب المبين نتلو عليك من نبأ موسى وفرعون بالحق لقوم يؤمنون أن فرعون عفا إرد وجعل أهلها شيعا يستضعف طائفة منهم يذبح أبناءهم ويستحيي نساءهم أنه كان من المفسدين ونريد أن نمنع على الذين استضعفوا فإرد ونجعلهم أئمة ونجعلهم الوارثين ونمن لهم فإرد ونري فرعون وهامان وجنودهما منهم ما كانوا يحذرون. Those are the signs of the manifest book. We will recite to thee something of the story of Moses and Pharaoh truthfully for people who believe. Now Pharaoh had exalted himself in the land and had divided its inhabitants into castes, abasing one party of them, slaughtering their sons and sparing their women, for he was one of the mischief makers. Yet we desired to be gracious to those that were abased in the land, and to make them leaders, and to make them the inheritors, and to establish them in the land, and to show Pharaoh and Haman and their hosts what they were dreading from them. In some verses of the Qur'an, the necessity of making the religion of God conquer all other religions, i.e., establishing a divine order instead of an unheavenly one, has been emphasized with similar words. Repentance, victory, and the ranks. A few verses from the surah, the ranks read as follows. ومن أظلم ممن افترى على الله الذب وهو يدعو الاسم وله يهدي القوم الظالمين يريدون ليطفئوا نوره. الله بأفواههم والله متم نوره ولو كره لفرون هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. And who does greater evil than he who forges against God falsehood, when he is being called unto al-Islam? And God guides never the people of the evildoers. They desire to extinguish with their mouths the light of God. But God will perfect his light, though the unbelievers be averse. It is he who has sent his messenger with the guidance and the religion of truth, that he may uplift it above religion, though the idolaters be averse. The aims of prophethood. It was discussed before that the prophet brings about a resurrection in the social order and overthrows all the idolatry foundations of the society. But what is the aim of this action? The most supreme aim of the prophets is to make man get rid of abomination and evilness and achieve the highest degree of exaltation. Man is created with a rich background of goodness and virtue, but only through a proper education he will be able to bring this potential power into action and achieve a higher degree of evolution. The aim of the prophets is to provide such an education. The Qur'an mentions this idea with the words purification and teaching. In fact, through the proper education of the prophets, man achieves humane characteristics and gets rid of inhumane ones, and in this way the ultimate aim of creation is fulfilled. But what a way should man choose in order to bring his potential gifts into action and achieve exaltation? Among different answers, the answer of the prophets is to provide man with an intact environment which fits his natural structure. This environment is a monotheistic and divine society. In such a society, man's way towards his ultimate and natural aim is rendered easy and accelerated, and with a natural speed, he paces in the straight path. Therefore, the prophets in their way towards the ultimate aim have a short-term aim, and that is to establish an Islamic and monotheistic society. A society based upon justice, monotheism, man, reverence, and away from cruelty, idolatry, superstition, ignorance, and any other factor which humiliates man. Thinking about the following verse of the Quran will lead us to the above-mentioned facts. وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ وَلْيَعْلَمَ أَنَّهُ مَنْ يَنْصُرُهُ وَرُسُلُهُ بِالْغَيْبِ أَنَّ اللَّهَ قَوِيٌّ عَزِيزٌ. Indeed, we sent our messengers with the clear signs, and we sent down with them the book and the balance, so that men might uphold justice. And we sent down iron, wherein is great might, and many uses for men, and so that God might know who helps him, and his messengers. In the unseen, surely God is all-strong, almighty. واكتب لنا فهذه الدنيا حسنة وفي آخرة أن ألف هدنا إليك قال عذاب أصيب به من أشاء ورحمة وسعت كل شاء فسكتبها للذين يتقون ويؤتون الزكاة والذين هم بآياتنا يؤمنون الذين يتبعون الرسول ألنا بأمل يجدونه متوبا عندهم فوتوراة وإنجيل يأمرهم بالمعروف وينهاهم عن المنكر ويحل لهم الطيبات ويحرم عليهم الخبائث ويدع عنهم آسرهم واغلظ كانت عليهم فالذين آمنوا به وعزروه ونصروه واتبعوا أنور الذي انزل معه أولئك هم المفلحون. And prescribe for us in this world good, and in the hereafter we have repented unto thee. Said he, my chastisement I smite with it whom I will, and my mercy embraces all things, and I shall prescribe it for those who ward off and pay the poor due, and those who believe our revelations, those who indeed follow the messenger, the prophet of the common folk, whom they find written down with them in the Torah and the Gospel, bidding them to honor and forbidding them to dishonor, making lawful for them the good things, and making unlawful for them the corrupt things, and relieving them of their loads, and the fetters that were upon them. Those who believe in him, and succor him, and help him, and follow the light that has been sent down with him, they are the prosperous. The first calls of invitation. The first call in the prophet's invitation is the very call of monotheism, which is considered the principal element of their school of thought. The policy of the revolutionary plans of other schools of thought is based upon graduation and The first slogans are to provide the necessary background for the fulfillment of the aims. But in the plan of the prophets, the last word is said first, and everyone, in the very beginning steps of faith, knows the direction, the aim, and the consequence, and thus consciously chooses his way. Both those who accept the call of the prophets and those who reject it come to an understanding when they come across the principle of monotheism. That in this school of thought, battle against man's domineering commands, class privileges, exploitation, and tyranny in any form is something natural in the same way that in an ideal social system, it is natural to care about freedom, man's reverence, social justice, public welfare, and the abolishment of tyranny and oppression. Therefore, the direction and the aim of the prophet's school of thought is quite clear, and the very clarity causes the enemies and the true followers of the prophets to be distinguished from one another, and thus prevents the coming generations from ideological deviation. The Holy Qur'an emphasizes repeatedly, and in the words of the great prophets, that the first call of the prophets concerns the servitude to God and the rejection of false gods. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فَكُلْ أَمْتَرُسُوا أَنْ أُعْبُدُوا إِلَهَ وَاجْتَنَبُوا التَّأَوَّةَ فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ هَدَى إِلَهُ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ حُقَّتْ عَلَيْهِ الضِّلَّةِ فَسَيَّرُوا فَإِرْدَ فَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةَ الْمُذَبِّينَ. Indeed, we sent forth among every nation a messenger, saying, Worship God, and eschew false gods. Then some of them were God-guided, and there were some against whom the error was due. So journey in the land, and behold how the end of the deniers was. لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا قَوْمَهُ فَقَالَ يَا قَوْمَ اعْبُدُوا إِلَهَ مَا لَ مِنْ إِلَهٍ غَيْرُهُ أَنْ أَخَافَ عَلِيمَ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. And we sent Noah to his people, and he said, O my people, worship God. You have no God other than He. Truly, I fear for you the chastisement of a dreadful day. فَذَبَوْهَا فَانْجَيْنَاهُ وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ فَالْفُلْكَ وَأَغْرَقْنَا الَّذِينَ كَذِبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا أَنْهُمْ كَانُوا قَوْمًا عَمِينَ. وَإِلَى عَادٍ أَخَاهُمْ هُودًا قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا إِلَهَ مَا لَ مِنْ إِلَهٍ غَيْرُهُ أَفَتَتَّقُونَ قَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ قَوْمِهِ إِنَّ أَلِفٌ لَنَرَاكَ فِي سَفَاهَةٍ وَإِنَّ أَلِفٌ لنظنك من اللاذبين. قال يا قوم ليس بسفاهة ولن رسول من رب العالمين أبلغ مرسات ربي وإننا لم ناسف. أمين عجبتم إن جاءكم ذكر من رب مع الرجل منام لينذركم. واذكروا إذ جعلهم خلفاء من بعد قوم نوح وزادكم في الخلق بسطة فاذكروا آله لعلما تفلحون. قالوا أجتنا لنعبد إله وحده ونذر ما كان يعبد آباؤنا فاتنا بما تعدنا أن كنا من الصادقين. قال قد وقع عليم من ربا من رجس وغضب إتجادلوننا فأسمع سميتموها أنتم وآباؤكم ما نزل له بها من سلطان فانتظروا أن معما من المنتظرين. And to add their brother, he said, O my people, worship God. You have no God other than He. Will you not be God-fearing? Said the chiefs of the unbelievers of his people, We see thee in folly, and we think that thou art one of the liars. Said he, My people, there is no folly in me, but I am a messenger from the Lord of all being. I deliver to you the messages of my Lord, and am your advisor, sincere, faithful. What? Do you wonder that a reminder from your Lord should come to you by the lips of a man from among you, that he may warn you? And remember when he appointed you as successors after the people of Noah, and increased you in stature broadly. Remember God's bounties. Haply you will prosper. They said, Why? Hast thou come to us that we may worship God alone, and forsake that our fathers worshipped? Then bring us that thou promise us, if thou speaks truly. Said he, Terror and wrath from your Lord have fallen upon you. What? Do you dispute with me regarding names you have named, you and your fathers, for which God has sent down no authority? Then watch and wait. I shall be with you watching and waiting. The opponents. So far, it was said that prophethood is a social resurrection, which brings about fundamental changes in the society in support of the oppressed and deprived, changes in opposition to the luxurious class of the society. This statement leads us to the exciting and the most important subject of prophethood, i.e., the chapter of conflict. It is quite obvious that whenever in history an opposition against class privilege has come about, it has been supported by the deprived class and rejected by the upper class. This has been the origin of many conflicts between the two classes. For complete recognition of these two groups, we will refer to the Qur'an. Somewhere in the Qur'an, the opponents of the Prophet's invitation are remembered in general, but somewhere else 3 specific names, which are the representatives of 3 classes, are mentioned. These are Pharaoh, Haman II, and Korah III, respectively being the symbols of ruling, statesmen, and rich classes. In some other parts of the Qur'an, the class of clergymen added to these 3. In the view of the Qur'an, the 4 following titles are indicative of 4 groups or classes who are stubbornly in opposition to the Prophet's mission. Taghut 4, Malah 5, Mutrafin 6, Anbar 7, and Ruhan 8. In the following verses, one of the many examples of the Qur'an about this classification can be seen. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا لِلنُّبِّ عَادُ شَيَاطِينَ إِنْسَ وَالْجِنُّ يُوحُوا بَعْضُهُمْ الْبَعْضُ زَخْرَفَ الْقَوْلَ غُرُورًا وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ مَا فَعَلُوهُ فَذْرْهُمْ وَمَا يَفْتَرُونَ وَلَتَصِغْ إِلَيْهِ أَفْئِدَةُ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ وَلِيَرْضَوْهُ وَلِيَقْتَرِفُوا مَا هُمْ مُقْتَرِفُونَ. So we have appointed to every prophet an enemy Satans of men and jinn, revealing Tory speech to each other, all as a delusion. Yet had thy Lord willed, they would never have done it. So leave them to their forging, and that the hearts of those who believe not in the hereafter may incline to it, and that they may be well pleased with it, and that they may gain what they are gaining. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَىٰ بِآيَاتِنَا وَسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ الْفِرْعَوْنَ وَهَامَانَ وَقَارُونَ فَقَالُوا سَاحِرٌ كَذَّابٌ فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُم بِالْحَقِّ مِنْ عِندِنَا قَالُوا اقْتُلُوا أَبْنَاءَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ وَاسْتَحْيُوا نِسَاءَهُمْ وَمَا كَيْدُ الْكَافِرِينَ أَلِفٌ فَضَلَّ. We also sent Moses with our signs and a clear authority to Pharaoh, Haman, and Korah. They said, "A lying sorcerer," and when he brought them the truth from us, they said, "Slay the sons of those who believe with him, and spare their women." But the guile of the unbelievers is ever in error. Bima'idin bayyin. We sent no warner into any city, except its men who lived at ease said, "We disbelieve in the message you have been sent with." They also said, "We are more abundant in wealth and children, and we shall not be chastised." يا أيها الذين آمنوا أن كثيرا من أحبار والرهبان ليأكلون أموال الناس بالباطل ويصدون عن سبيل الله والذين ينزون على الذهب والفضة وينفقونها فسبيل الله فبشرهم بعذاب اليم. 0 believers, many of the rabbis and monks indeed devour the property of the people in vanity and bar from God's way. Those who treasure up gold and silver and do not expend them in the way of God, give them the tidings of a painful chastisement. The consequences of prophethood. The way to which the prophets lead people is based on the human nature, and because people's movement in that way is a natural one, it is carried out more easily and faster. Since despotic and ignorant governments, who keep people away from this way, commit actions contrary to man's nature, they are impermanent and are condemned to annihilation. This shows the consequences of the prophet's mission and their prophethood. Contrary to the superficial ideas, the prophet's movement has been a successful one, and it was the divine prophets who succeeded in guiding people on the whole to the straight path they wanted. And this will continue until doomsday. Each of these room messengers of God in a special career of history has facilitated man's way towards exaltation and social evolution, which is the very aim of man's creation. After constant struggle, these prophets have died, but at the end of their mission, they have trusted the divine responsibility of man's guidance to the prophet or authority after them. Due to this fact, man in the course of history has always been optimistic to the prophet's invitation and the way they proposed. This natural view will continue in this manner till the last divine authority takes the final step in the way of man's education and guidance. At that time, man, without any hindrance, will travel in the infinite highway of exaltation and evolution more easily and faster than ever. This is the consequence of all the prophets and their ways. An important point is that successes depend on 2 important factors: faith and patience. Failures amidst the way are due to the lack of these two factors, but the proper use of them brings about outstanding victories. The following verses are a part of the relevant verses of the Quran about this subject. قل من رب السماوات والأرض قل أله قل آفات خذت من دونه أولياء يملون نفسهم نفعا وضرا قل هل يستوي أعم والبصير أم هل تستوي الظلمات وأنور أم جعلوا له شركاء خلقوا كخلقه فتشابه الخلق عليهم قل أله خالق كل شيء وهو الواحد القهار انزل من السماء ماء فسالت أودية بقدرها فاحتمل السيل زبدا رابيا ومما يوقدون عليه فألن أرى ابتغاء حلية أو متاع زبد مثله كذلك يدرب أله الحق والباطل فما الزبد فيذهب جفاء وأما ما ينفع الأس فيمث فإرد كذلك يدرب أله أمثال للذين استجبوا لربهم الحسن والذين لم يستجيبوا له لو أن لهم ما فإرد جميعا ومثله معه فتدوا به أولئك لهم سوء الحساب وماواهم جهنم وبئس المهاد. Say, God is the creator of everything, and He is the One, the Omnipotent. He sends down from the sky water, and the valleys flow each in its measure, and the torrent carries a swelling scum. And out of that over which they kindle fire, being desirous of ornament of wear, out of that rises a scum the like of it. So God strikes both the true and the false. As for the scum, it vanishes as jetsam, and what profits men abides in the earth. Even so God strikes his similitudes. For those who answer their Lord the reward most fair, and those who answer him not if they possessed all that is in the earth and the like of it with it, they would offer it for their ransom. Those there shall be the evil reckoning, and their refuge shall be hell and evil cradling. ولقد سبقت كلمتنا لعبادنا المرسلين أنهم لهم المنصورون وأن جندنا لهم الغالبون فتولى عنهم حتى حين وابصرهم فسوف يبصرون بعذابنا يستعجلون فإذا نزل بساحتهم فساء صباح المنذرين وتولى عنهم حتى حين وأبصر فسوف يبصرون سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون. Already our word has preceded to our servants the messengers. Assuredly, they shall be helped, and our host, they are the victors. So turn now from them for a while, and see them. Soon they shall see. What do they seek to hasten our chastisement? When it light in their courtyard, how evil will he the morning of them, that ark warned. So come thou from them for a while, and see soon they shall see. Glory be to thy Lord, the Lord of glory, above that they describe. The consequences of prophethood. History shows that whenever the prophet's invitation has been accompanied by faith and patience, they have been successful in establishing a divine system and in throwing out the despotic system. Taking the general aim of prophethood into consideration, it is understood that all the prophets, even those who have apparently failed to fulfill their mission in a special phase, have succeeded in achieving their ultimate aim, which is the exaltation of thought and man's spirit in such a way that enables him for the acceptance of the next phase. The Quran has clearly mentioned this fact, either through reporting the adventures of the prophets or through telling the great prophet and other Muslims some facts about all the prophets. أن ألف لننصر رسولنا والذين آمنوا في الحياة الدنيا ويوم يقوم إشهاد يوم ينفع المؤمنين معذرتهم ولهم العنة ولهم سوء الأرى ولقد آتينا موسى الهدى وورثنا ابن إسرائيل التبع هدى وذكر وللباب فاصبر and وعد له شق واستغفر لذنبك وسبح بحمد ربك بالعشي وأبار. Surely Wes Hall help our messengers and those who have believed in the present life, and upon the day when the witnesses arise, upon the day when their excuses shall not profit at the evildoer, and there shall be the curse, and there's the evil abode. We also gave Moses the guidance, and we bequeathed upon the children of Israel the scripture for a guidance, and for a reminder to men possessed of minds. So be thou patient, surely God's promise is true, and ask forgiveness for thy sin, and proclaim the praise of thy Lord at evening and dawn. وكم قسمنا من قرية كانت ظالمة وانشانا بعدها قوما آخرين فلما أحسوا بأسنا إذا هم منها يركضون تركضوا وارجعوا الماء اعترفتم فيه ومساكنهم لعلما تسألون. How many a city that was evil-doing we have shattered, and set up after it another people. Then, when they perceived our might, behold, they ran heading out of it. Run on, return you unto the luxury that you exulted in your dwelling places. Haply you shall be questioned. قلنا يا نار كوني بردا وسمعا لإبراهيم وأرادوا به كيدا فجعلناهم أخسرين ونجيناه ولوطا الأرض باركنا فيها للعالمين ووهبنا له إسحاق ويعقوب نافلة وكجعلنا صالحين وجعلناهم أئمة يهدون بأمرنا وأوحينا إليهم فعل الخيرات وأقام أسا وإيتاء الزكاة وكانوا لنا عابدين. We said, O fire, be cool and safety for Abraham. They desired to outwit him. So we made them the worst losers, and we delivered him, and let unto the land that we had blessed for all beings. And we gave him Isaac and Jacob a grandson, and made them all righteous, and appointed them to be leader, guiding by our command them the doing of good deeds, and to perform the prayer, and to pay the poor due, and us they worshipped. Faith in prophethood and its obligations. One of the most practical points of prophethood is that with regard to the philosophy of prophethood, its spirit, and its contents, the acceptance of the prophet's invitation is accompanied by the acceptance of certain obligation. In other words, the person who has accepted the prophet invitation should pursue the very way of the prophet and should also help him in fulfilling his responsibility. This, in fact, demonstrates his faith in the prophethood of the prophet. Prophethood brings about a new dominion of thought and proposes new thoughts, ways, and aims. The faithful is the one who accepts these thoughts, searches for these aims, and examines these ways. Being an opponent is not necessarily dependent on opposition. Just not to agree or assist is sufficient. In making ranks between the prophet and his opponents, those who stand amidst are not of the prophet as well. Anyone who is not for him is against him. This fact is clearly announced in several verses of the Qur'an. Those who believe and have emigrated and struggled with their possessions and their selves in the way of God, and those who have given refuge and helped those are friends one of another. And those who believe but have not emigrated you have no duty of friendship towards them till they emigrate. Yet if they ask you for help in religious matter, it is your duty to help them, except against the people between whom and you there is a treaty, and God sees the things you do. إن الذين آمنوا وهاجروا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم فسبيل الله والذين آووا ونصروا أولئك بعضهم أولياء بعض والذين آمنوا ولم يهاجروا ما لم من ويتهم منشأ حتى يهاجروا وأن استنصروكم فالدين فعليم. النصر ألف على قوم بينهم وبينهم ميثاق وله بما تعملون بصير والذين كفروا بعضهم أولياء بعضا ألف تفعلوه. ثاني فتنة فإرد وفساد كبير والذين آمنوا وهاجروا وجاهدوا في سبيل الله والذين آووا ونصروا أولئك هم المؤمنون حقا لهم مغفرة ورزق كريم والذين آمنوا من بعد وهاجروا وجاهدوا معهم فأولئك منم وأولو أرحام بعضهم أول ببعض فكتاب الله إن الله بلا شيء عليم. As for the unbelievers, they are friends one of another. Unless you do this, there will be persecution in the land and great corruption. And those who believe and have emigrated and struggled in the way of God, and those who have given refuge and helped those in truth are the believers, and there shall be forgiveness and generous provision. And those who have believed afterwards and emigrated and struggled with you, they belong to you. وإذ أخذ إله ميثاق ألن بين لما آتيتم من كتاب وحمة ثم جاءكم رسول مصدق لما معهم لتؤمنن به ولتنصرنه قال أقررتم وأخذتم على ذا المآسر قالوا أقررنا قال فاشهدوا وإننا معهم من أشياء دينا فمن تول بعد ذلك فأولئك هم الفاسقون. And when God took covenant with the prophets, that one have given you of book and wisdom, then there shall come to you a messenger confirming what is with you. You shall believe in him, and you shall help him. Do you agree? He said, and do you take my load on you on that condition? They said, we do agree. God said, bear witness, so, and one shall be with you among the witnesses. Then whosoever turns his back after that, they are miscreants. مثل الذين حملوا ألتوارات ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله يهدي القوم الظالمين. The likeness of those who have been loaded with the Torah, then they have not carried it, is as the likeness of an ass carrying books. Evil is the likeness of the people who have denied God's signs. God guides, never the people of the evildoers. 1. Pharaoh. It is the name of the kings of Egypt in general. It is also the surname of Walid ibn Musab, king of Egypt, contemporary with Moses. He is a tyrant ruler and is the symbol of cruelty and despotism. 2. Haman. It is the name of Pharaoh's vizier. 3. Korah. In the Old Testament, he is called the Korah, and in the Quran, he is called Karen. He is as vicious as Pharaoh and Haman. He is Pharaoh's treasurer. The Quran and the Surah of the story tells us about his life. He is an oppressor from the family of Israel. He is too rich, but does not help the poor. Misusing his wealth and power, he is the source of corruption in the society. At last, he is destroyed by God's will. In an earthquake, he and his family are killed. 4. Taghut. By Taghut we mean false god. Taghut is an idol, a demon, or any object worshipped. 5. It refers to a body of men of high ranks, i.e., statesmen. 6. Mutrafin. It refers to a person who is blessed with affluence and is allowed to enjoy oneself without interruption. It refers to the rich who have opposed the prophets because the prophets have kept them from debauching. 7. Abar. Generally it refers to learned men. But in the Surah Repentance, verse 34, it seems to refer to the Jewish rabbis. 8. Reuben. Generally it refers to a person who is pious and fears God. In common usage, it refers to Christian monks. Walaya. The new thought and vision which is proposed by God through the prophet promises a new life. This can be achieved only if that thought can establish its identity in the mind and action of an integrated community. For such a community, which forms a solid and impenetrable front strongly, tries not to efface when confronting the opposite thoughts and actions. This purpose require the rejection of any dependence, if necessary, or possible, even breaking off the ties of ordinary relationship which enfeebles the front of the believers. In the language of the Quran, this intellectual and practical stand from the point of view of thought and action is called Walaya 1. Again, when this integrated group, which is the cornerstone of Islamic society and the principal basis of Islamic community, changes to a strong nation and establishes an Islamic society, it needs to observe the principle of Walaya in order to preserve its unity and integrity and avoid the penetration of its enemies. The Quran points out these ideas in several verses as follows. يا أيها الذين آمنوا تتخذوا عدوي وعدوكم أولياء تلقون إليهم بالمودة وقد كفروا بما جاءكم من الحق يخرجون الرسول وإياكم أن تؤمنوا به رب إن كنتم خرجتم جهادا فسبيل وابتغاء مرضات تسرون إليهم بالمودة واننا اعلم بما أخفيتم وما أعلنتم ومن يفعله منام فقد ضل سواء السبيل أن يثقفوكم يونوا لما أعداء ويبسطوا اليم أيديهم وألسنتهم بالسوء وودوا لو تفرون لن تنفعم أرحامهم وأودكم يوم القيامة يفصل بين مواله بما تعملون بصير قد كانت لم أسوة حسنة فإبراهيم والذين معه إذ قالوا لقومهم أن ألف براء منم ومما تعبدون من دون أله كفرنا بما وبدا بيننا وبينهم العداوة والبغضاء أبدا حتى تؤمنوا باله وحدها ألف قول إبراهيم بي ستغفرن لك وما أملك لك من أله من شاء ربنا عليك توكلنا وليك أنبنا وليك المصير. O believers, take not my enemy and your enemy for friend, offering them love, though they have disbelieved in the truth that has come to you, expelling the messenger and you because you believe in God your Lord. If you go forth to struggle in my way and seek my good pleasure, secretly loving them, yet I know very well what you conceal and what you publish, and whosoever of you does that has gone astray from the right way. If they come on you, they will be enemies to you and stretch against you their hands and their tongues to do you evil. and they wish that you might disbelieve. Neither your blood, kindred, nor your children shall profit you upon the day of resurrection. You shall distinguish between you, and God sees the things you do. You have had a good example in Abraham, and those with him, when they said to their people, "We are quit of you and that you worship. Apart from God, we disbelieve in you, and between us and you enmity has shown itself, and hatred forever, until you believe in God alone." The relations of Islamic community. After the establishment of the great community, the integrated group, which is the origin of the Islamic nation, expands to the extent of all the true believers of the world. In such a community, the principle of walaya influences its civil and foreign affairs. In civil affairs, all the units and wings of the nation are obliged to carefully prepare all the force in one way and for one aim, and strongly avoid dispersion and disorder which cause the futility of some parts of these forces. In foreign affairs, they should abstain from any relationship and friendship which endangers independence and authority of the world of Islam. It is quite obvious that taking care of the two aspects of walaya requires a central and superior power, which is, in fact, the crystallization of all the constructive elements of Islam. It also requires a deep and strong relationship between all the members of the Islamic community and the Islamic governor. Here another aspect of walaya is manifested, and that is the imam's walaya and the leadership of the Islamic world. In the following verses, the Qur'an has skillfully mentioned these subtle facts. يا أيها الذين آمنوا تتخذوا اليهود والأنصار أولياء بعضهم أولياء بعض ومن يتولهم منهم منهم أن الله يهدي القوم الظالمين فترى الذين فقلوبهم مرض يسارعون فيهم يقولون نخشى أن تصيبنا دائرة فعسى أن يد بالفتح أو أمر من عنده فيصبحوا على ما أسروا فأنفسهم نادمين ويقول الذين آمنوا أهؤلاء الذين اقسموا باله جهد إيمانهم أنهم لمعام حبطت أعمالهم فأصبحوا خاسرين يا أيها الذين آمنوا من يرتد منم عن دينه فسوف يأتي الله بقوم يحبهم ويحبونه أذلة مربوطة على المؤمنين أعزة على الأفرين يجاهدون في سبيل الله ويخافون لومه إن ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله واسع عليم أنما وليم الله ورسوله والذين آمنوا الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويأتون الزكاة وهم راكعون. O believers, take not Jews and Christians as friends. They are friends of each other. Whoso of you makes them his friends is one of them. God guides, not the people of the evildoer. Yet thou seest those in whose hearts is sickness vying with one another to come to them, saying, "We fear lest a turn of fortune should smite us." But it may be that God will bring the victory, or some commandment from him, and then they will find themselves, for that they kept secret within them, remorseful, and the believers will say, "What are these the ones who swore by God most earnest oaths that they were with you? Their words have failed, now they are losers." O believers, whosoever of you turns from his religion, God will assuredly bring a people he loves, and who love him, humble towards the believers, disdainful towards the unbelievers, men who struggle in the path of God, not fearing the reproach of any reproacher. That is God's bounty. He bestow his favors upon whomever he wills, and God is all-embracing, all-knowing. Only your friend is God, and his messenger, and the believer who perform the prayer and pay the poor due, while bowing down. يا أيها الذين آمنوا آتنكوا الله حق تقاته وتموتن ألف وأنتم مسلمون واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا وتفرقوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبهم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فانقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون. O believers, fear God as he should be feared, and do not die unless you're Muslims. And you hold fast to God's bond, together and do not scatter. The paradise of walaya. Only that society can enjoy having walaya, in which the wali 3 is ascertained the one who is the authority and the inspirer of all the liveliness and activities of life. And a person can enjoy having walaya if he has a true understanding of the wali, and if he is in a constant struggle to connect himself with him, who is the manifestation of God's walaya. So far as the wali is God's successor and the manifestation of the divine authority and justice on the earth, he uses all the possibilities and talents, which are disposed in men's nature for their evolution and exaltation and for their own benefit. Furthermore, he would not let any of these talents he used against humanity or he lost, for if it happened, it would be a great damage. He firmly fixes justice and security in the community, which are necessary for man's flourishing as a rich soil, water, and good weather necessary for the growth of a plant. He will stop the appearance of cruelty in any form, just distribution of wealth, zakat 5, spreading of goodness and abolishment of wickedness. In short, he helps man to approach the ultimate aim of creation. Thinking about the following verses will show us the vast horizons of Walayu's paradise and will once more emphasize the fact that none of the religious commandments is as important as Walaya. لعن الذين كفروا من بني إسرائيل على لسان داود وعيسى ابن مريم ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون كانوا يتنهون عن منر فعلوه لبئس ما كانوا يفعلون ترى كثيرا منهم يتولون الذين كفروا لبئس ما قدمت لهم أنفسهم أن سخط الله عليهم وفي العذاب هم خالدون ولو كانوا يؤمنون باله وأولي نبي وما انزل إليه ما آت خذوهم أولياء ولا كثيرا منهم فاسقون. Cursed were the unbelievers of the children of Israel by the tongue of David and Jesus, Mary's son, that for their rebelling and their transgression, they forbade not one another any dishonor that they committed. Surely evil were the things they did. Thou sayest many of them, making unbelievers their friends. Evil is that they have forwarded to their account that God is angered against them, and in the chastisement they shall dwell forever. Yet had they believed in God and the prophet and what has been sent down to him, they would not have taken them as friends. But many of them are of evil conduct. يا أيها الذين آمنوا تدخذوا الذين آت خذوا دينهم هزوا ولعبا من الذين أوتوا التاب من قبل والفي أرى أولياء واتقوا إلها إن كنتم مؤمنين وإذا ناديتم الأسر آت خذوها هزوا ولعبا ذلك بينهم قوم يعقلون قل يا أهل التاب هل تنقمون منا ألف أن آمن ألف باله وما انزل إلينا وما انزل من قبل وأنا أكثركم فاسقون قل هل أنبم بشر من ذلك مثوبة عند أله من لعنه أله وغضب عليه وجعل منهم القردة والخنازير وعبد أغوت أولئك شر مانا وأضل عن سواء السبيل. O believers, take not as your friends those of them who were given the scripture before you, and the unbelievers who take your religion for a jest and sport and fear God, if you are believers and when you call to prayer, that take it for a jest and sport. That is because there are people who have no understanding. Say, people of the scripture, do you blame us for any other? Because then we believe in God, and what has been sent down to us, and what was sent down before, and that most of you are evil livers. Say, shall I tell you of a recompense with God worse than that? Whomsoever God has cursed, and with whom he is worth, and made some of them apes and swine, and worshippers of idols, they are worse situated and have gone further astray from the right way. About Walaya. The principle of Walaya, discussed in the Qur'an comprehensively, can be considered from many points of views. Sometimes each of them can be regarded as a principle in itself in understanding Islam. If one think attentively about the following verses, some of these point of views can be observed. The wali of the Islamic society, that is the power which leads all the mental and practical activities of the society, is God or whomever God has assigned either in name or by signs for walaya. إنما وليم أله ورسوله والذين آمنوا الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم راكعون. Your guardian wali is only God and his messenger and the believers who perform the prayer and pay the zakat while bowing down. إن إلها يأمركم أن تودوا أمانات الأهلها وإذا حمتم بين الناس أن تحموا بالعدل أن الله نعم يعظم به أن أله كان سميعا بصيرا يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا إله وأطيعوا الرسول وأول أمر منام فان تنازعتم فشي فَرَدُّهُ الْإِلْهُ وَالرَّسُولُ إِن كُنتُمْ تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ وَأَحْسَنُ تَأْوِيلًا. God commands you to deliver trusts back to their owners, and when you judge between the people that you judge with justice. Good is the admonition God gives you. God is all hearing, all seeing. O believers, obey God, and obey the messenger and those in authority among you. You have a dispute on anything, refer to God and the messenger if you believe in God in the last day. That is better and fairer in the issue. من يطع الرسول فقد أطاع الله ومن تولي فما أرسلناك عليهم حفيظا. Whosoever obeys the messenger, thereby obeys God. And whosoever turns his back, we have not sent thee to be a watcher over them. Hast thou not regarded those who assert that they believe in what has been sent down to thee, and what was sent down before thee, desiring to take their disputes to idols, yet they have been commanded to disbelieve in them? But Satan desires to lead them astray into far error. God's walaya and its acceptance by the believers has a mental foundation which has been taken into consideration in the Islamic worldview and is a natural phenomenon. وَلَهُ مَا سُنَّ فَأَلَّا يَلِي وَأَلَا نُهَارٍ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ قُلْ أَغْيَرُ آلِهَةٍ خُذْ وَلِيًّا فَاطِرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَارْضَ وَهُوَ يُطْعِمُ قُلْ أَنْ أَمَرْتَ أَنْ أَكُونَ أَوَّلَ مَنْ أَسْلَمَ وَتُونًا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. And to him belongs whatsoever inhabit the night and the day. And he one's the all-hearing, the all-knowing. Say, shall I take to myself a guardian other than God, the originator of the heaven and of the earth, he who feed and is not fed? Say, I have been commanded to be the first of them that surrender. Be not thou of the idolaters. Single quote. About walaya. Any walaya except the walaya of God and his viceroys is the walaya of Tag Hut and Satan. The acceptance of Satan's walaya makes Satan dominant over all the constructive and creative forces of man, which he will use in the way of his own lusts. As far as Tag Hut does not consider any essentiality for anything except his own benefits, and due to his lack of information about man's needs and his possibilities in nature. His leadership for human community is the origin of damage and loss of man's valuable energies. The very lack of information in the community under the dominance of Taggut's walaya deprives its people of the brightness of knowledge. Humanity and God's life-giving rules and confines them in the darkness of ignorance, lust, selfishness, and perverseness. The Holy Qur'an says, فإذا قرأت القرآن فاستعذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أنه ليس له سلطان على الذين آمنوا وعلى ربهم يتوكلون إنما سلطانه على الذين يتولونه والذين هم به مشركون. When thou recites the Quran, seek refuge in God from the accursed Satan. He has no authority over those who believe and trust in their Lord. His authority is over those who take him for their friend and ascribe associates to God. ألهم والذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات الألن والذين كفروا أولياؤهم أغوت يخرجونهم من ألن ورأل الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. Brings them forth from the darkness into the light. And the unbelievers, their patrons are idols that bring them forth from the light into the darkness. Those are the inhabitants of the fire, therein dwelling forever. About walaya, Hydra. Taggut's and Satan's walaya in a community makes the true believer dependent on Taggut's power in many different ways and encumbers him with its invisible net. His freedom is taken away, and he is unconsciously led to the end which that system is doomed to. Such a system prevents the true believer from spending his power in the way of Islam. This inevitable reality proposes the phenomenon of Hydra 8. Hydra means escaping from Tag Hut bondage and getting to the free environs of Islam, where everything guides man to the divine aim. Where the natural process of the society is leading towards exaltation, mental and material evolution, where goodness prevails and no signs of malignity can be seen, that is, the Islamic community. Therefore, according to the principle of walaya, Hydra is an essential and urgent obligation for the true believer. He is to transfer from the Taggut's environs to the Islamic community and step into the environs of God walaya. Thinking about the verses of Hydra in the Quran reveals many points about this subject. They wish that you should disbelieve as they disbelieve, and then you would be. وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نَوْلُهُ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنَصْلُهُ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ أَنْ يُشْرَكَ بِهِ وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَمَنْ يُشْرَكْ بِهِ فَقَدْ ضَلَّ بَعِيدًا أَنْ يدعون من دونها ألف إناثا وأن يدعون ألف شيطانا مريدا لعنه أله وقال تخذون من عبادك نصيبا مفروضا وضلنهم ومانينهم ومرنهم فليبتن آذان أنعام ومرنهم فليغيرن خلق أله ومن خذ الشيطان وليا من دون أله فقد خسر خسرانا مبينا يعدهم ويمنيهم وما يعدهم الشيطان ألف غرورا. But whoso makes a breach with the messenger after the guidance has become clear to him and follows a way other than the believers, him we shall turn him over to what he himself has turned to, and we shall roast him in Gehenna, evil homecoming. God forgives not that aught should be with him associated, less than that he forgives to whomsoever he wills. Whoso associates with God anything has gone astray into far error. Instead of him, they pray not except to female beings. They pray not except to a rebel Satan accursed by God. He said, Assuredly, I will take unto myself a portion appointed of thy servants, and I will lead them astray, and fill them with fancies, and I will command them, and they will cut off the cattle's ears. I will command them, and they will alter God's creation. Whoso takes Satan to him for a friend, instead of God, has surely suffered a manifest loss. He promises them and fills them with fancies, but there is nothing Satan promises them except delusion. وَدُّوا لَوْ تَفْرُونَ كَمَا كَفَرُوا فَتُكُونُونَ سَوَاءً فَتَتَّخِذُوا مِنْهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءَ حَتَّى يُهَاجِرُوا فَسَبِيلَ اللَّهِ فَانٍ تَلْوَى فَخُذُوهُمْ وَاقْتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ وَجَدتُّمُوهُمْ وَتَتَّخِذُوا مِنْهُمْ وَلِيًّا وَنَصِيرًا. God is the guardian of the believers. He equal. Therefore, take not to yourselves friends of them, until they emigrate in the way of God. Then if they turn their backs, take them, and kill them wherever you find them. Take not to yourselves any one of them as friend or helper. إن الذين آمنوا وهاجروا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم فسبيل الله والذين آووا ونصروا أولئك بعضهم أولياء بعض والذين آمنوا ولم يهاجروا ما لم من ويتهم منشأ حتى يهاجروا وأن استنصروكم فالدين فعليم. النصر ألف على قوم بينهم وبينهم ميثاق وله بما تعملون بصير والذين كفروا بعضهم أولياء بعضا ألف تفعلوه. ثاني فتنة فإرد وفساد كبير والذين آمنوا وهاجروا وجاهدوا فسبيل الله والذين آووا ونصروا أولئك هم المؤمنون حقا لهم مغفرة ورزق كريم. Those who believe and have emigrated and struggled with their possessions and their selves in the way of God, and those who have given refuge and helped those are friends one of another. And those who believe but have not emigrated you have no duty of friendship towards them till they emigrate. Yet if they ask you for help, in religion's matter, it is your duty to help them, except against the people between whom and you there is a compact, and God sees the things you do. As for the unbelievers, they are friends one of another. Unless you do this, there will be persecution in the land and great corruption. And those who believe and have emigrated and struggled in the way of God, and those who have given refuge and helped those in truth are the believers. And there shall be forgiveness and generous provision. إن الذين توف أهم المئة الظالم أنفسهم قالوا فيما كنتم قالوا كنا ألف مستضعفين فإردا قالوا ألمتني إردا أله واسعة فتهاجروا فيها فأولئك ماواهم جهنم وساءت مصيرات ألف المستضعفين من الرجال والنساء والولدان يستطيعون حيلة ويهتدون سبي فأولئك عسى أله أن يعفو عنهم وكان أله عفو غفورا ومن يهاجر فسبيل أله يجد فإرد مراغما كثيرا وسعة ومن يخرج من بيته مهاجرا الأله ورسوله ثم يدركه الموت فقد وقع إجره على أله وكان أله غفورا رحيما. And those the angels take, while still they are wronging themselves, the angels will ask, In what circumstances were you? They will say, We were oppressed in the earth. The angels will say, "But was not God's earth wide, so that you might have emigrated in it?" For such men, their refuge shall be Gehenna, an evil homecoming except the men, women, and children who, being oppressed, can devise nothing and are not guided to a way. Haply them God will yet pardon, for God is all pardoning, all forgiving. Whoso emigrates in tile way of God will find in the earth many refuges and plenty. Whoso goes forth from his house an emigrant to God and his messenger, and then death overtakes him, his reward is then incumbent on God. Surely God is all forgiving, all compassionate. 1. Walaya. It means continuing or following without intermission, friendship, affection, patronage, clientage. 2. Imam. It means one who stands before or is followed, ahead. Chief, leader especially in religious matters. Imam can be a person or a book. As a book, it refers to the Qur'an. As a person, it refers to the innocent and just people whom God has appointed. 3. Wali. It means administrator. It also means a sincere friend, a helper or guardian. In Surah of the Cow, verse 257, the Qur'an says, Allah is the wali of those who believe. He bringeth them out of darkness into light. 4. Salat. This word refers to prayers, those especially prescribed by Islam, which are recited 5 times a day. Salat is considered the cornerstone of all other duties in Islam. 5. Zakat. Generally, it means the wealth which is given in the way of God, by way of purifying or securing to the rest of one's possessions. Zakat was meant to fill the gap between the rich and the poor in the society. 6. Al-Amar bil Ma'ruf. It means to command to do what is right, lawful, or kind in the eyes of God and man. 7. Al-Nahi and Al-Munkar. It is the prohibition of what is wrong, unlawful, hateful in the eyes of God and man. In the Surah of the family of Lamran, verse 104, the Quran says, "And there should spring from you a nation who invite to goodness, and enjoin right conduct, and forbid indecency." 8. Hijra. It generally means departure from one's country and friends. In the tradition of the Quran, it means leaving the region of blasphemy and entering the region of faith. In particular, it refers to the Prophet's abandoning Mecca because of its mounting hostility and transferring himself and his followers to Yathrib, 200 miles north, whose people had invited him. He arrived on the 20th of September, 622 AD, and the city proudly changed its name to Medina Tul Nabi, the Prophet City. Source URL. Links is www. Ayatollah Khamene'i, https www.al